Jordan A. King, thank you so much for joining us on the New Street Podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time.
That's a pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to getting to learn more about you, learn about your past, your future, and what you're doing. I obviously we came across, we connected, and I was really obviously you're doing a lot of stuff in the real estate sector, so I was really interested to learn more about that and just learn about your strategies, learn about sort of how you're focusing your investments, and so we'll get into that. But first, I thought we could touch on sort of your music career and your music background. I know, I know that's a big part of your background and kind of your history. So, were you more focused on the management side on the music, or as an artist, or kind of both? If you can kind of touch.
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
So, I've always had a passion for business. Even when I started music, it was music business. I started the label first.
Yeah.
Right? So I started that in 2011. The good thing about that
Tell me the label name quick.
The Community Inc.
The Community Inc. Okay,
Yeah. So I started in 2011. It was my first business I actually ever incorporated and got into pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And the reason why I did it was, there was some talented artists around, and at the time my brother was making beats and producing. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, you know what? Like there might be a good play here if I invest some capital, get a studio set up, get some artists in and producers, and see what happens. So that's how it started. And then I like moving pretty quickly on certain things. And I guess I came to a certain point where I realized what the best thing for the label at that time was for me to hop on the mic and become an artist.
Okay, I like that energy.
You were like listening to these guys and you're like,
No disrespect to the guys. It was just like, listen, I'm not one to just like always talk.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it and at least push it forward, right? And if we're a team, if we're a label, it doesn't matter which artist
you got to set the example, right? You
set the example, everyone benefits.
Yeah. Right.
So that's how it started. And it was pretty remarkable, right? Because growing up in Oakville, a bunch of guys from Oakville, we didn't really know anything about it. I never recorded in my life before.
Right.
So everything was a learning process. But during those times is where I really learned about entrepreneurship and what it takes to have a successful business, right? You need commitment. You need everything, really, to go out there and be able to do that. So, it was a pretty good experience. How I got involved was, like I said, more of the business side of things. So I wanted to connect with certain artists that were already established and helping them with promotional things and marketing and branding. So we got involved with, shout out C Gutta, Lil C. He was a producer for TI, multi-platinum producer. That was kind of our first thing. And then from there, it just branched out and we're able to do some good things and have songs with like Kevin Gates and Young Drill and a couple other artists. So, so it was good. Like I said, it was a great experience, and it's kind of how it was my first step into business and realizing, hey, it's not just as easy as registering a corporation and then getting going. There's a lot of commitment and time that goes in to make these things successful.
Did you were you part of like managing the SoCan registrations and
no,
never got to deep into that?
No, we did, but like not me personally.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, so I have a big thing is you have to specialize and focus in things that you're good at, in areas that you're good at.
Yeah,
and even if someone can do it at least 80%, I delegate. So for stuff like that, that's not my forte. So we delegated it all to a specific person on our team that handled all that stuff, the copyright, the SoCan, registering here in Canada, in the US, internationally, whatever it may be. So we had a really, really good system.
Yeah.
I just think at the time, the music industry, as we see it, at least now in Canada and Toronto, it's matured a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just not what it was 10 years ago. So now I've actually been dabbling back a little bit more. No, not as much on the artist side, but more so on the production side and marketing side. Yeah. And just working with artists that are up and coming that are looking for,
I love it.
You know what I mean? Like looking to get out there and looking to, for that guidance. Because one of the biggest things that I found when I was doing it, I was eager. I was hungry.
Yeah.
Whoever can give me an opportunity, I'm just there like a chicken waiting to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And in the industry, you get a lot of guys that are looking for guys that are emotionally attached to their music to get you to pay money and chase that dangling carrot, right? So for me, it was very eye-opening, really. Very just understanding how everything is in the industry and whatnot. But fuck.
Two questions just came to my mind out of what you were saying. So first, I know with the business you have now and I think TUK Capital, you got a board of directors, you got some partners, but like even in the music side, like how important is that crew or that group of people?
It's the most
like you said, you're
thing.
delegating different things. Like you can't really do it alone.
No, you can't. And especially in this day and age, you have to keep in mind you are competing with the most professional teams, but they have specialists at the top of their industries that you're working against. You know what I mean? So if you're just a random rapper in your basement trying to compete, you're gonna have some difficulty.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem is ego. A lot of artists wanna
That'd be a tough one for sure in that business.
get that red carpet rolled out and
Yeah.
have all that treatment. And my biggest thing is, hey, like to get a manager and to be at that level, you need to have something to manage.
That's right.
And so my thing is you need to have that fire and that ambition and that confidence to go out there and get on the mics, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, you also need to know when, hey, like, this person isn't hating on you. You gotta do a little better. Your song isn't as good as you think it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Constructive criticism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my thing is this: it's like anything. You know, you are ready when people are lining up to either book your shows or download your music, or more importantly, you got labels surrounding you to get involved with you. That's how you know you have done everything you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting those calls, then you got to reevaluate a little bit, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. Obviously, you speak from experience. Kind of give us an idea how long you've been at this for, how long you've been doing this for.
Music or?
Music, just the music alone, kind of in general.
So it's funny, I always had a passion for music. Even when I was younger, singing in the shower when I'm getting ready, I'm like, that could have been a pretty cool song if I had the right tools and productions, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what always channeled it. I always had a passion. Like my dad was a DJ and he was heavily involved in music, and my brother's in music as well.
He was making beats, you were saying?
Yeah, my dad was making beats and DJing, and he had the turntables, doing all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? So I always had a passion for it. I was always drawn to it. I'm an emotional guy, controlled emotion, I like to say. And music is something that I feel is like it taps into my emotion. So that always drew me to it. I was always super drawn to it, right? And just the experience of creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
That to me is just remarkable. And to be honest, why I like real estate is because you have an opportunity where you get that blank slate, you build something, or you get an old property that's you renovate it, you get it up to the proper levels, and that creation process to me is just incredible. Where you look back and say, wow, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was complete silence.
And look what's here now.
And then now look, right? You starts with a
That's it.
drum sound, and you got your snare, and then you got the guitar, and whatever, and all of a sudden you got vocals. Hey, this is a song that came from nothing.
Yeah.
So that whole process.
I just had a thought in my head where you could do like a music video, and it's like the excavator. You're like drumming the excavator. It's like the house gets put together with the song or something.
You know what I mean? But like whatever. There's just
it's
so
true.
much.
It's like music and real estate, just taking nothing and articulating a thought or a vision through that is crazy.
Well, the way I see it is this, right? For real estate especially, to be successful, you have to be creative. You can't just sit there and wait on the market and wait the time thing and just have your realtor find you the perfect property that you're going to buy that's going to make you tons of money. No, man, you got to get creative. You got to get out there. You got to try things. You got to experiment. You got to figure things out. So that whole creation process is just what I live for.
Yeah,
to be quite honest
I love
with
it.
you. Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned something about Toronto and how I guess things have changed. Why and how do you think they've changed in terms of the music?
Wow.
In terms of music.
Well, first of all, like, look at the artists we got coming out.
That's it.
Not just Toronto, like Canada in general, right? You got Drake, you got Bieber, you got The Weeknd, you got Tory Lanez. 10 years ago, you didn't have that, right? I remember when we were doing music, we went to an artist showcase in Atlanta, and at that particular time, it was just, oh, like, you guys are from Canada, like, what's Canada? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on over there, right?
Yeah,
like,
what's
like, you guys live in igloos, like, what the fuck?
Oh man,
right?
I got that so many times.
And I'm just sitting there being like, guys, like, right across the border, right? But more recently, going back, it was a complete shift where it's just like, hey, you guys know Drake and what's going on and how can we get over there? So that was definitely something that you have to respect as well.
Raptors won the championship.
There
Now
you
we're
go,
on the
right?
map.
Like,
You know?
we're on the
Like,
map. Right? You got people coming here. You got the All-Star show here, right? And everyone's coming from all over. You got celebrities coming here. Even like TIFF festivals, right? And entertainment. So all those things have really matured. Even if you look at some of the news outlets and social media pages, when we were doing this, I think like 6Buzz maybe had like 100,000 followers, right? Now they're well over 2 million. And they have people all over the industry that are tapping in. You have academics, I think, every now and then he will tap in with local and up and coming artists from Toronto and just talk to them.
Yeah.
So now they're getting all this exposure from the US, and for the first time, at least that I've noticed, the respect is there.
Yeah.
Before, no one from the US cared about coming to Canada and doing shows or working with Canadian artists. Now it's just like, hey, this is an untapped market. And one thing that I've noticed, if you actually pay attention to the music that comes out of Canada, we're extremely multicultural country.
Yeah.
We're extremely diverse.
Yeah.
So if you can get a song that's popping here in Canada, that song's popping international.
You talked about creative. I would say we're very creative too. If you listen to the sound and just like the different, it's different.
Yeah.
And it compared to everything else that's out there. So that's really interesting. And in terms of like the music industry, in the last 10 years with social media and kind of artists kind of being able to start their career and get it going through different channels, how has that changed the industry? Traditionally, it was like very label driven, and
well, I don't think it's just like here. I think that's just.
It's what I'm saying. No, I'm talking across the board. Across the board, not Toronto.
I think it's the best thing, right? And if you think about it, the last, let's say, more recent years have been better, but let's say the last like 10, 15, even 20 years in some cases, early 2000s, for you to get your name out there, you needed to know someone. You needed to have a deal. You're not going to have that exposure. They didn't have social media. They didn't have streaming platforms that they do now, right? And the industry was in a completely different situation where you all remember the Napsters and the LimeWires, so people were just downloading music. So I think it's actually remarkable what the industry has done, because how do you get people to pay for something that they're used to getting for free? And during that period, a lot of people in the industry, a lot of money wasn't flowing like it used to. So people got out of it, right? And the only ones that were there were the label ones that had tons of bankroll and that institutional financing.
It was all about the radio station.
Exactly.
They had to have the connection.
And they had the control, right? Like to get on the radio station, you have to know someone or be signed to a label, or you're paying a ton of money to get on. And you get on the radio, you're on. Now that's changed. With these streaming platforms, I think it's so remarkable where music is actually being viewed as like an asset right now. An asset class. You're seeing artists selling their masters for tens and hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's an asset,
which is insane. It's an asset, right? So with that, I think you're seeing labels are even shifting where they're saying, hey, you know what? Let's not just invest in that artist where we have to get from the ground up, put a bunch of money into them, build them, get their fan base. What they're saying is, no, forget all that. Let's find artists that are already buzzing. They already have their fan base. They could already make their music. They could already do their own videos, and we'll use our channels to get out there.
It's all because of the platform.
And it's all because of the platform.
But I think also they're like almost scared of that too, because it's like if the artist realizes that, hey, I can get my career to this stage,
absolutely,
and create this fan base and be able to get these streams, like why would I need a label to get to the next level, right? So it's like how far do you let them go until
and that's why they're being so aggressive now. We're trying to pick up as many things as possible. And it's different, right? It's not just label deals now. Now you can have like distribution deals where you'll partner for a single or one EP, not a whole 360 deal, right? So with that happening, what I've been noticing, and one of the main reasons why I've been dabbling back, is you have a lot of venture capitalists and institutional money that weren't originally tied to music that are now paying attention. They're saying, hey, you know what? If these things are that profitable, we don't have to get a full-blown studio and have all this overhead. We could just get behind this artist and get shares or whatever it may be, whatever arrangement they have. And once they recoup their funds, they have their splits and whatnot. So I think it's amazing. I think what's going to happen now is you're going to have real music come out, right? Artists that might have been extremely talented but didn't have that exposure, you don't hear about those guys. But now you can. All it takes is one right song. You get on the right platform, the right playlist, you got millions of people listening to your song, they don't even know what you look like, they don't even care. So that's what I think is really good, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that as we get into what they call like the golden era of music. That's where we're at right now. Lots of money in there, streaming, content creation. Everyone's looking for content, right? So
do you think that the artists are gonna integrate their assets somehow with like NFTs and cryptocurrency? I know that's something that I've been looking into and kind of following along. Like, I think there's a big opportunity there.
There's definitely something there. It's just all about understanding it, right? And it's such a new thing for, especially the music business. They're trying to understand, okay, how do we get involved with this and how do we make sense of it without opening ourselves up to certain exposures or things like that. But one of the main things that I've been hearing about is on like ticket sales, right? People are able to like recopy these tickets and sell them and do whatever. But if it's tied to an NFT, it's a way different situation. It's that original copy. So I think we're going to see the technology around NFTs and it being like original digital content coming into play in terms of like investing into an NFT one day and the next month it's worth like $1 billion. Like, I don't think we're going to see too much of that anymore.
I think that's the benefit of it all, is that everything is very traceable and registered and you have that record of it. But I guess the model that I've come across is artists basically being able to, like, let's say they want to put out a song, it's a digital asset. You make an NFT out of it, and now the community of the fan base, they can like buy a share of it and take advantage of all those royalties that are associated with it, right? Correct. So it's like a way to engage the fan base.
You engage the fans, and like now the fans are a part of the career. That's what fans want. Yeah. They want to feel like they're a part of it.
That's it.
I was talking to a couple of artists I'm working with now, and I said, think about it, because a lot of artists want to come out like Drake, like how Drake is now. You understand? But they don't realize...
Wouldn't that be nice?
Exactly. They don't realize the stepping stones that you have to do to get there, right?
Yeah.
Like even someone like Tory Lanez. I remember Tory Lanez was standing at street corners handing out mixtapes, right? Now they see him as Tory Lanez, but a lot of artists don't want to do that. They think that's beneath them, and they're
the little Wayne
cosign. Back to that ego thing you were talking about earlier.
And it's the ego, right? So my thing is, ego's good. You have to control ego, and you have to be able to understand a hater from constructive criticism, right? And I think that's the biggest ones. And the artists that are able to do that and view it as a business are the ones that are very successful right now.
Yeah.
You know, one of the main things that I realized in the music industry was, hey, you're not going to get rich from just making music. And if you pay attention to a lot of the artists in the game, where does their wealth come from? It's from everything else.
To diversify as soon as you can, right?
Right, to diversify when you're getting that money, because they know, hey, there's an expiry date where people could pay $1 million to book you. That doesn't last forever, right? Yeah. Some artists or Drakes or whatever, okay, fine. But for the average artist, you have that time frame when you're on, and you want to get as much capital as possible. Invest that capital, and make sure that when you're not on, you have something to fall back on, right? Yeah. So that's a big thing that that we're doing, especially with my label right now, is not just teaching artists how to navigate through the industry, but teaching them, hey, guess what? Like, save your money, invest your money, really, not save, invest your money.
That's amazing.
You want to buy that diamond chain, I'm not against it, but maybe buy a house first, right? And then with your profits, then buy your diamond chain. You don't want to have your diamond chain and not have a house. Right? So that's a big one, is having that financial knowledge, really.
Yeah. In terms of like starting, there's some young artists out there that want to just get started. What would your recommendations be in terms of that path, and what should they do? How they should maneuver their...
My recommendation would be to learn from someone that is doing it. Not at the stage that you're at, right? Or someone that's up and coming that is doing the right things. Don't just look for someone that is already there. You have to be active. You have to be willing to go out and do everything, right? And what I mean by that more specifically is, I find a lot of artists and they think that because I'm an artist, I don't have to work. I don't have to do anything because I'm an artist, I'm the talent. When in reality, it's just like, no. Being a professional artist is a privilege. You understand? And the only time you can stop making money is when you are losing money from your job because you aren't able to, when you're losing money from your career because you're at your job. That's the only time when you can make that switch. But if that's not there, I just don't think that it's sensible. So a lot of artists start off with that wrong mindset where it's, hey, I'm an artist. I've announced everybody. I'm an artist.
Where's the labels at? And give me my deal.
Find me. Here's my number.
Give my deal.
You know what I mean? Hit me up.
Where's my chain at?
But seriously, right? But in reality, it's just like, no, like that's a privilege to do that. You will know that you're at that stage when there's something to manage, when you have money coming in, when you have fans booking your shows, right? So my biggest advice would just literally be, you do everything you possibly can until something works. And fall in love with the process. It shouldn't feel like work when you're doing it. Right? So many guys say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this one song. I'm going to get this one feature. I'm going to put this money. I'm going to remortgage my mom's house and this, and this. And then and I'm just like, and then what if that doesn't work out? You have to, you don't know what song's going to blow up. There's a funny story with DMX and Swiss Beats when they were talking about Rough Riders Anthem. DMX hated that record. He didn't like it. But Swizzy was like, no, trust me, we got to put this out. And now look, everyone knows Rough Riders Anthem as a song it is, right? the most important thing is also realizing that you aren't going to go out and buy 100 million copies of your own album. You're not going to listen to your own song 100 million times. It's the fans. So if they're not vibing with it, if they're not liking it, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of artists want to wait until they have this blockbuster video with the crazy car and the models and all these things. I'm just like, you're setting yourself up, because if you aren't there in your life, if you're not living that, you have now set yourself up that everything you do has to be on that level, right?
There's that experience again, talking again. A lot of people, when they listen to this, they're going to get a lot of facts out of this.
Right? Sure. They don't realize that, but instead, like, it's all about being personable. Yeah. Artists want to see, like I said in the beginning of this, artists want to see, like, hey, I was with that guy when he was doing open mics at frickin' Joe Dogs, you know what I mean, in front of 10 people. Yeah. That's what's going to resonate. Yeah. And then they're going to see your journey. And then when you're in a video with that nice car and the models, oh my goodness, look, he's at that stage now. Yeah. He's making it. He's doing moves. We can see the growth. People like a story.
That's it.
Right?
And I feel like the modern day artist is just like so aligned with that in terms of, you know, having the opportunity. You can go and do so much through social media. I don't know if you know an artist by the name of La Russell. You know what I mean? It's like this guy, like, he set up shop in his backyard, built his own stage, and he's just selling out concerts in his backyard. Like,
but look how he does it though, right? There's so many artists that'll say, "Hey, I will only perform at this stage in front of this and this." And here's this guy being like, "Guys, my backyard. I'm gonna have the barbecue going. I'm gonna be selling T-shirts." He has his whole family doing it too. It's a family business.
I think this guy's getting like a G a pop. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, if not, just.
But what's happening, right? Everyone's seeing that. They're seeing, like, the, you know, the fans interacting with him, and people are saying, "Yo, what a chill guy! This guy is like, you know, he's doing his thing, and
it's different.
He's doing shows in his backyard.
And people can vibe with it.
They want to vibe with it. They can relate to it. So a lot of artists, I find, want to make it seem like they're untouchable, and that's the first thing that you're gonna your fans. Unless you're at that stage and you could